Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Well, welcome everybody to the Bullhorn Betty channel. Come on in. We have some breaking news on the Nancy Guthrie case. This very cold Wednesday morning, February 4th.
Aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo.
Yes, thank you so very
Ups and downs,
much.
just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it, it's a sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. I have some breaking information on the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mother in Tucson, Arizona. I have spoken with a impeccable law enforcement source who has informed me, with his knowledge of the investigation, of some extraordinarily serious pieces of information about this crime scene.
Hello, good morning, my beautiful people. I need another screen, and then it would have worked so much more simultaneously, but it didn't. So here we are. I'm Bullhorn Betty. I cover true crime. We're covering the case of Nancy Guthrie. She's an 84-year-old grandmother that seemingly was abducted from her bed in her home where she slept alone. We were looking at Brian Inton yesterday, and there was quite a bit of blood on the outside of the front door. But here's the kicker. Later in the afternoon, Ashley Banfield went live and dropped a bunch of bombshells onto mainstream and social media, and our heads are just kind of spinning, but not shocking. Not shocking. As you guys saw with my thumbnail, we do have somebody that appears to be under investigation, according to the Ashley Banfield reporting. Allegedly, she has some information or sources related to Nancy Guthrie. So Ashley Banfield just named a potential suspect in the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. Savannah Guthrie's mom snatched from her Tucson home, blood, smashed cameras, a family car towed. And we're going to be breaking this all down for you, this full story, bite by bite. So let's get into it. Now, we have several little sound bites here that I want to go over, and then we're going to further discuss these little sound bites.
The sheriff today said Nancy Guthrie's life is in jeopardy. Could be a couple reasons he said that. Number one, medications were left behind in the home. Medications that she would need within 24 hours could be fatal. And
okay, so we got that. We know that she has a fatal, she has need for this, these medications because it keeps her alive. We learned that we have a pacemaker. Here's Brian Inton.
Yeah, we did. And I was kind of surprised, Ashley, that it was not a crime scene anymore. I don't know why I just expected that they would still have some tape outside. Or, when you cover these things, they'll have like one police car that stays behind. Everybody left. I mean, it was just empty, except there were some, what I thought were family members coming and going today. I don't know who they were. So we decided, let's just go knock on the door and see if anybody is home, just to kind of see what's going on, since it's not a crime scene. It's all opened back up. And so walking up to the front door, you could see that there was blood right outside the front door on the ground, like on the stoop right there, right near the front mat going in. Just, not a ton of blood, but it was definitely blood. It was all right there.
Right there. So there it is. So we have Nancy's life is in jeopardy, blood right outside the front door. Let's get back to 18.
source tells me that Tommaso Cioni is the prime suspect in this case. Again, law enforcement source tells me that Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, married to Annie Guthrie, Savannah's sister, is maybe a prime suspect in this case. At the very least, let me tamp that down, because sometimes it's the first person you're looking at, not prime as in there's no one else. Okay,
so she's trying to walk some of it back, but I don't think that this stuff is shocking to us. You know, Ashley dropped that February 3rd, all of these things. So we're going to be going through this. We're going to be breaking this down. There's not going to be any fluff. It's going to be all facts. Is this probable? Is this possible? The answer is yes. Of course it is. We've been looking at this case for some time. And one thing that we've noticed related to this case is that, what purpose? I think we're kind of on the bandwagon with just about everybody else. What purpose does somebody have to take an 84-year-old elderly woman that can't walk well? So Ashley starts off hot. She talks about this impeccable law enforcement source that was on the crime scene. Cameras are smashed, doors open, blood everywhere. So the first of the timeline, and not only that, but what about the pacemaker? What's been said about the pacemaker? Let's find out what has been said about the pacemaker.
You probably have heard up until now that Nancy Guthrie had a pacemaker and it disconnected from her Apple devices, her Apple Watch, her Apple phone, which were left in the home at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And that is a significant time.
So 2 o'clock in the morning is kind of where we're at. I'm sorry, I'm going to take this. So 2 o'clock in the morning is when it disconnects from the Apple Watch. So what does that mean? It could mean a variety thing, right? It could mean that she was taken out of the house, no harm. It could mean that's when it stopped reporting to the situation, 2 a.m. That's when Nancy's pacemaker lost signal to her Apple Watch and phone left behind. The abduction window is locked, not her death. Her being hauled out of Bluetooth range, I think, is what it is. Now, is that really the situation? Rural Tucson foothills, it's dark. There's no light. These properties have large acreage lots, larger lots. Like I said, they were like mini estates from everything I know about the area. So we've got a lot of sound bites here in this story with Ashley Banfield, and we're going to go through it a little more in detail. But until then, we're going to bounce around here and just get all the stuff that we kind of need for this and, learning more about
pictures of blood outside the house. He's going to join me in a moment. We're going to talk about that. I can also tell you whose car has been towed into evidence. And I can tell you that there is a family member who is being heavily looked at right now as a potential suspect.
Now, why is this so important to us? Why is this so important to us? Because the statistics, most of us are in true crime. We do this every single day. That means we're looking at crime scene photos, we're looking at reports, we're listening to trials, we're learning about blood spatter. We're learning about how movement is, and that's from our trial experience because they have to explain all of this stuff to juries. If you guys want to know policies and procedures from law enforcement, you don't really get a whole lot of FBI up on the stand. You get liaisons, and there's a reason for that. They don't ever want to get too technical with what they do at the feds because once it's known, people like me learn those things, and we teach people like you online. And it's not that we're teaching you to get away with crimes. We're just explaining how these things happen in the cases we're covering. And it kind of, tips the hat of law enforcement practices and procedures, when, and that's happened, even with cops, when the cops thing came out, we were all hooked to our TV watching the episode of Cops, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you, right? And so they even showed us a lot of policies and procedures, law enforcement policies and procedures by running that show. And then you got like Joe Kenda that goes through, what they did as officers and how they identified suspects. And so you're learning a little more about policing in the United States with those types of shows. And then, of course, now that we have a huge true crime community, we learn a lot more than that. So in a situation like this, we're realizing that most of the time it's going to be the last person that saw you. Most of the time, the person that hurts you the most is somebody that's known to you the best. These are what our experiences have told us and taught us as we've covered true crime all of these years. Okay, folks? So when we hear this and we hear this thing, we know the reality of a ransom is very, very low. Do people try to act like crimes are ransom crimes just to try to throw off? Yes, they do. But when was the last time we had a true ransom? A true, we are kidnapping your people and we want, when have we ever seen that? I can't remember when we've seen a legitimate ransom abduction in this country. I mean, granted, we've watched it on TV because it's cinematic. It's drama. It would draw us in. But what is the reality of actually abducting people for ransom? Well, you're going to want deeper pockets than this family. Okay. I was just talking on the Tiki Talk this morning about how, I have a well known to us around here in Florida of this developer, right? This specific developer is worth $2 billion. That's with a B. Okay. And he resides in my county. Okay. This guy is a developer all over the state of Florida. Very well known. I don't know him personally, so I can't really tell you whether I like him or not personally, but I can tell you professionally, I do not like him because, I get more calls from him gunking up the roads than any other developer in our county. So, but we have a developer in this county that's worth a hell of a lot more than some $45 million that, the Guthrie family or, Savannah is worth. So it really kind of shows you that there's probably even in Tucson bigger fish than this lady. So why would anybody go through this for this lady, And not only that, but an elderly lady just comes with a whole host of problems. Why not find a rich family and go after the child? Not that I'm saying this is speculative. I would never want anything to happen to children. Let me put that caveat on here. But the point being is it's an example. Like you would think that it would be much easier to control, not have to worry about mobility issues with a child as opposed to an elderly lady that has mobility issues. Now, there was a few things that we knew right away. This is a large home. How did they know where she was in this large home? So you really identified very quickly that somebody must have had, knowledge of the floor plan of this house at minimum. So that eliminated a lot of people. Okay, just with that, all by itself eliminated a lot of people. So before we get into this and start talking about the stuff that we know, let me say good morning. Eeyore Blues, it's nice to see you. Melanie, it's nice to have you. OG Jitterbug, hey, my love. I hope you are doing well. Lisa B. Always, of course. Melanie, thank you for that. She says, happy Wednesday, Betty. Delilah Mods in chat. Lisa B. Always, also, thank you for your contribution. We appreciate that. She says, Betty, Delilah, Mods, and chat, sending love to everyone. Prayers to whoever needs it. Don't forget to hit the button for BHB. Thank you so much for that. We do appreciate it. We appreciate everything that you guys do for this channel. As many of you know, we're upgrading equipment. I got new equipment. It hasn't been hooked up yet. And then we get a breaking case. Like I was ready to throw the computer, then we get a breaking case, and now I have like literally no time. I was working almost until midnight last night, and up at 4:30 this morning, 4 o'clock this morning. That's when Delilah decided to start licking me to death. Good morning, Sonia. It's nice to see you, Denise. Alicia, it's nice to see you. Good morning. Mayflower, it's nice to have you here as well. Oakley, good morning. Jenna. Sweet Jenna, good morning. Our handy dandy Nightbot is working around the clock along with our handy dandy mods and the Real Me Too. And a big shout out. The Sandy Beaches. Oh, good gracious. Dreaming of blue skies and sandy beaches. Did a very nice gesture for me, Sonia, and the Real Me Too. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I didn't know if you public or not. So I just want to say thank you in case you didn't want that to be public. So we have some anonymity, but we want to give a big shout out to you. Oven Baby, it's nice to see you. Mama, it's nice to see you. Unicorn, it's nice to see you. Good morning, ladies. Who else do we have up in the chat? Lori, and just remember, because we've got such a time crunch today and a lot of information to go over. Hey, Mama Bear, it's nice to see you. Curly Crime, it's nice to see you. Steve Lookner, it's nice to see you as well. I hope you're doing well. They did process the house. It sounds like they processed the house. A house like that, could take all day to process, but it's not something. Time. If a house is well kept, there might not be a lot of surfaces that contain stuff. So processing is fine, but I've seen houses processed in 4 to 8 hours. So I wouldn't be so concerned about that. Let's hope. But it doesn't look like the family's going into the house. So they're keeping the preservation of the house, and it sounds like they may have some security watching the house now. So I think I think that it'll be okay. I think it's going to be a situation like the Idaho 4, where they just lock the house down, but they don't disturb anything in the house, and they keep it like that until such time that they're ready. I don't know about that. The blood outside the door. That has to be pretty bad. But law enforcement aren't cleaning companies, right? And so they're going to have a specialized cleaning company to come in there and clean that house that can handle biohazard. And that's what they have. They have a biohazard house because there's blood strewn about it. So they have to clean that house in a specific way to get that biohazard out. So anyways, it's nice to see you. Let me see if I've got anybody else up in the chat. Whispering Winds, good morning. Blue-eyed Brit, good morning, love. It's been a while. I hope you had a great New Year's, Christmas, and all that, you and your family. Let Them 66, it's nice to see you. Good morning, Love Bug. Oakley, good morning. It's nice to see you. CDJ, it's nice to see you. Lindbergh, baby. That's kind of funny because when I was looking up some stuff and did some research on key terms, Lindbergh did come up in some of those key terms. Kind of interesting that you brought that up to this morning. I'm just saying. I didn't go down the rabbit hole or anything like that. I was looking for specific stuff, but how ironic that you say that. And I was doing, and I'm like, this has been decades, So Lori, it's nice to see you. Little Orange Man, good evening, good gracious, good morning. I'm not trying to rush this day through at all. Tomorrow is going to be a very cold and early day for us. 6 a.m. tomorrow, we're rolling out with our live. Common Sense, it's nice to see you. Cheyenne, I think I said. Remy, it's nice to see you. Okay, I think we got everybody. If I didn't, guys, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started on what we're doing here. So we've got the Ashley Banfield video up. This Ashley Banfield really did have a lot of, crazy bombshells in it. Okay. Like the family member's car being heavily looked at. And when we were talking about this case, and I'm going to read this because Lisa B always sent this to me this morning. I think it's relevant. So let me just pull it up. I'm not going to pull it up on the big screen, but I will read it to you. It says, remember how it was always bothering you that the family of Nancy Guthrie took an hour to call law enforcement? Here's my thinking on that. Family members touching items at the crime scene for an hour would have a defense. If charged with the crime, let's say Annie's significant other, big dude, by the way, was making sure if he had left any evidence after kidnapping Nancy. Evidence would be touched by him. Investigating Nancy's disappearance, defensive posturing. Also, his car being seen in the area would not seem suspicious since he had probably been there consistently. I mean, they only live 10 minutes away. They've probably been consistently living there. The man is from Italy, right? Where Savannah Guthrie is supposed to be going to cover the Olympics. Ooh, interesting. Italy. Was Savannah Guthrie making inquiries about her brother-in-law's past family and going to make connections? Is there something Charles O. Cioni didn't want discovered? which could lead to possible motive. What would keep Savannah from going to Italy? Yes, her mother's disappearance. AI has already given the statistics on family being suspected and an elderly woman being harmed and kidnapped from her bed. Does this close the box? Money could also be the motive. In my opinion, how Charles Cioni, I don't know who that is only a teacher. How can he afford a $600,000 home? I haven't gotten into his stuff, but it sounds like the whole family was involved in other stuff. And the homes, in all fairness, appear to have started out with the sister. So if you guys know, the sister was a writer. She has a book out. She probably made some money from that book. You know, she's part of her sister. We don't know what kind of, usually when you have a famous family member and they have money, they usually, share it around the family for a few reasons. I'm not saying that's the case, but they hire the family or pay the family to do different things, and it's to draw down their income so they're not having to pay so much taxes back. There's a lot of reasons why they do it. So we don't know what the family dynamic was with Savannah and her siblings. $40 million really isn't all that much. You typically see family taking care of family when they have, a couple $100 million. But would she pay for like the assistance in her house with her mom to, make sure she's okay, take care of her cooking and cleaning? I'm absolutely confident that Savannah would probably do something like that. I can tell you everything that I've learned is that this is a tight-knit family. They were raised normally. They did some pretty interesting stuff. It seems like they were a very tight-knit family. All three children have the same mom, the same dad. They were they were brought up in a very Christian-oriented family life with Christian values. And they just did things, and you can see that, like, even with Savannah, she's an attorney. I'm sure she's tough, but you can tell she's a sweet person. You can tell that her mom is a very genuine, sweet person. You can almost see that and feel that just from their normal, just by their normal behavior to one another. Just watching them, you can see that genuine. Genuine behavior, just in my opinion. I know other people are a little more ultra skeptical than I am, and I'm, because of me being beat up so much, I'm very, very careful in my reporting on these things. And, although I did think it was highly suspicious that, her daughter and her, and I never want to accuse a daughter of ever hurting an elderly mother, because I've got my mom's getting up there in age, and I can't ever imagine harming a hair on my mom's head, nor could I ever imagine either one of my sisters. So, and I've got to think that I was raised fairly similar, that we came from a normal upbringing, that, those things are normal in our family and probably normal in this family too. Did they go without problems? Probably not. I'm sure there are a few skeletons. Every single family has a few skeletons in their closet. Some are a little more concerning than others. That's it, okay? But everybody's got skeletons, okay? Everybody's got skeletons. So, it's just it's a situation where it's not shocking, but it's shocking. You never want to hear that any family member is involved with a missing family member. It's very scary, but we knew that this had a lot of very interesting factors. For example, we know that this is a large home and she lived alone. We know that this was done late at night, and somebody had to have known that she would have been in the house by herself with no assistance. I mean, with her house being as big as it is and stuff like that, I don't think anybody would have thought she lived alone, or she didn't have a sleep-in staff member living with her. So the family would know that, but nobody else would really know that. And when would they know to break in? How would they know to break in? So you're talking about somebody that's been to the property, that knows where the back door is, knows where the front door is, knows where her bedroom is. Then we're going to get into this. I'm going to start playing this now. We're going to get into where she releases that the Nest cameras are broken, busted. So now you're talking about somebody that knew where the cameras were inside the home. Okay, now you guys are starting to understand. I mean, we didn't even have the stuff about the cameras or the camera being ripped off the front door. We now know that to be true. But when we first heard of this case, we didn't have those details, and we still were able to determine that this was closer to home than many might think. We also covered the ransom note. Listen, I'm not buying the ransom note, but here's the kicker. TMZ is not the only person that received a ransom note. There were three, and I even acknowledge that if there's a real authentic ransom note, it's going to the local paper, not TMZ. So which again, bizarre, two TMZ, or two local reporters got ransom notes, and then TMZ. Okay, and it sounds to me like the two local were kept under wraps. So TMZ would have heard about that. I know that because I'm fairly familiar with some of the sources that they have. They're much, they have their sources. Ashley Banfield has their sources. Sometimes Ashley Banfield and TMZ sources are around the same. In the midnight hour, scream more and more sorry. When Betty said midnight hour, that's the first thing that went through my head. Yeah, but you know what? You talk about, I know you're talking about a song, but the screaming, think about it. I'd have to think that some of those noises, because of the Idaho 4, think about Xana Kernodle. We could hear her whimpering in her room from a camera that was attached to a different home. What are we going to hear on those cameras? I know you're bringing something funny, but you actually brought a valid point to surface as well. What about the noises that would have been picked up on those security cameras, or maybe even the faint sounds from distant security cameras? It seems like the ransom notes are outdated. That's something like you might see in Italy, in my opinion. And you know what? And I even said that yesterday when I heard the ransom note that this might be just a hoax, or it might be somebody actually capitalizing on people talking about the ransom and wanting to further explore that or exploit that avenue to throw shade off of them. And this would go right into, again, we have heard this stuff, but in America, it just doesn't happen like that. Okay, folks? I know we have it in some of our movies, but if you've noticed, they pretty much stay in the movies. I'm sorry, they just do. Nothing good has ever happened with a ransom. Like, I don't think we've ever had a positive ransom where somebody has asked for ransom money and got the ransom money and turned the person back over as they said they would. I think that only happens in South America, and that's few and far between, So I don't even think that this is even remotely plausible in our society. I mean, could it happen? Yes. Has it happened? I'm sure. Is it an outlier? Absolutely. Typically, does this happen? Absolutely not. Typically, when you have an 84-year-old woman that disappears, that many people are kind of seeming as if she's already deceased, tells me of a very specific act. Somebody needed her gone for a very specific reason. And most of those are contractual or money or love. But because of her advanced stage and age, I'm kind of thinking she's not, knocking boots with the senior citizen down the road, but you never know. I don't want to be, I don't want to take away from her. She looks like a lovely lady. I'm sure she's probably got her phone blowing up with a lot of the guys from the church, but at the end of the day, she probably is not that kind of woman or not that kind of lady, and she's probably proud of that. So I don't see that being the issue. I don't see a love interest. If I can't have you, nobody else can, being the plausible scenario here. Is it possible? Absolutely possible. She could have a boyfriend, and her boyfriend could be a domestic abuser. And she probably said, she already has mobility issues. She's tired of being pushed around by his, walker and scooter or whatever. And she just decided to say, hey, I'm not going to date you anymore. And he said, if nobody can have you, if I can't have you, nobody can have you. Like, and I'm kind of making it satire because that's how ridiculous I think that option sounds for me. There is elder crime. We know that elderly commit crime. We know that there are elderly people that commit murders and homicides. So we're not dismissing it. It's just low on the totem pole with the facts that we have. The facts that we have, in my opinion, are leading us down a road of somebody that knows her. Okay. And I've been saying from out the gate, I'm sure a lot of people have been saying out the gate that this feels a lot closer to home. Right. And so that's kind of where we are. And now we're hearing about this Thomas, and he meets the profile, doesn't he? Last person to see her. You check, right? Close to the family, check. Has an intimate understanding of the house, check. Would most likely know where the cameras are, check. Was he the one that was, because everybody's been bringing up how they moved closer to her house, last year, the beginning part of last year. I think it's within the first quarter of last year, they purchased a house only about 10 minutes away for $650,000. And so, again, not an uncommon thing. It's not like they had a crap house and then all of a sudden they're living in a $650,000 house. That's not the case here. And that seems to be what was kind of implied. They both kind of look, in all fairness, Dub. I mean, we do judge people, but they both kind of look like they're substance abuse users, or at least alcoholics. I mean, even her. I mean, the sister doesn't, in my opinion, looks a little rough, compared to her and her brother. The sister looks a little rough. And it sounds to me like the brother's the oldest, her sister is the next in line, and then you've got Savannah. It seems like Savannah's the baby. If I'm right, but it seems like there's more age between because I believe her sister's 56 and she's 54, if I'm not mistaken. I pulled all the reports, but I know that her and her sister are about 2 years apart, but her brother is much older. Like there's several years apart between the brother. And I think like he's 61, so it's 61, 56, and then 54. So you see how kind of that dynamic is. And then, of course, the middle child is the one that appears to have kind of this hippie lifestyle. When you look at them, they don't seem like they're from the upper crust like Savannah and Cameron are living. Yeah, they have a nice house, but they don't look the part. And some people don't, some people don't. I know this lady that owns one of the largest electrical companies in a south area of Florida. And when you look at her, you think she's just, no offense. It's going to sound horrible. She looks like she's straight out of a trailer park. Okay. She looks like I'm not lying. She looks like she's straight out of a trailer park. And we're not talking about one of the good trailer parks, okay? We're talking about like an 8 Mile trailer park, okay? She's a hefty bulldozer white lady that's missing some teeth, and she's running one of the largest, this electrical company, South Florida electrical company. It's subcontracting. They make some bank too. I don't know how the hell they have so much that she's got lots and lots of money, but she looks like she's straight out of the ghetto. I mean, she really does. Like the white the trashiest trailer park you can find. This millionaire looks like she lives in it. And so you can't really judge the book by its cover. Nicest lady too. And in all fairness, that's just how she looks. I'm not, and I'm just being honest, right? But she's the nicest lady in the world. She's very, very smart. It's crazy. Like but she just doesn't look like the part. That's the issue. She must do a lot of work over the phone. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. It's hard not to be when you talk about stuff like this, right? Because you're talking about a human being and you're kind of, making fun of some things that they probably can't control. But I think her mouth she can control. She's a millionaire. So go get your mouth fixed, boo. She probably has it fixed now. I haven't seen her in probably a decade. But just crazy. Just how people. So I've got to be careful. I do know when I see an addict, there's certain features about an addict that other addicts just know. And these people, they look like, if I had to put my finger on it, drunks, but could it be substances? Could it be elevated? Possibly. So I'm starting to think, the only thing I can think of is why they would want to get this lady out of out of the way is either she has money that we don't know about, because she's lived here for a really, really long time, since the 90s. And granted, that's like 40 years, but that still means that her children were children, or just becoming, teenagers and adults. They weren't very old at the time that this house was purchased. So I have to assume that she didn't need her children to purchase this home. This is something that her and her husband purchased themselves, I would assume. So it does look like even the mom, Nancy Guthrie, is well-to-do, or at least comfortable. I don't know what they did, but it does look like at least at minimum they are comfortable. She's living in a comfortable, her retirement years are going to be comfortable for her. And to boot, she's got some pretty well kids that make decent money. I've always been, one thing I can't figure out is where Annie and Thomas's money is coming from. I do know she's not unknown to the world. She has written a book. She does other things, but I don't really know. I really don't. I got the bill for my upcoming tooth implant orals. Yeah, I know it's expensive. It's expensive, but somebody that has millions, if you needed to drop $100K on your teeth to look professional, you're going to do it. I'm broke, bent, and busted, and I won't let anything happen to my teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just especially if you're in, if you're in sales where you have to meet people, or you're in any type of business. The teeth, it's very expensive. Yes, it's very, very expensive. Trust me, I know. I got 2 crowns. I know how expensive this crap is. It's disgustingly expensive. But it seems like she has the money to do it. And she may have done it by now. We don't know what her walk was, right? She may have had problems in her younger years and may have cleaned up her life and built this big business, just like, maybe Mike Lindell from crackhead to CEO. You know what I'm saying? So let's get back here. Let's go through Ashley Banfield. Lots of stuff to break down in this live stream that she did. She brought a lot of bombshells. Let's just go over. Actually, before we go into this, let me just go through some of the key takeaways here. The key takeaways, the bombshells that were provided in this section. I went ahead and got a little, if I can find my little thingy here, where I got them all broke down. Here we go. So, impeccable source, and that impeccable source talked about smashed cameras, the family member being a suspect, a car being towed from the family member's house, the pacemaker ending or stopping their syncing at 2 a.m., forced entry, which is the back door, blood inside and out, alleging kidnapping. And I don't think it alleges kidnapping. I think it alleges homicide, to be honest with you. Threat, medication left, and her life being in jeopardy without the medication. Annie's car is towed, and Tommaso Cioni is the prime suspect. And we've got all the stuff for that. Brian Enton found the blood and missing camera. So at the front door, the Ring doorbell was ripped off the front door. The back door versus the front door. Ashley says her sources told her the back door was wide open. So it was the back door that was wide open. So why did the front door have the blood in it? And how would the person know to go to the back door versus the front door, or how to gain entry into the house? So all these things even further solidify it's somebody familiar with this home. The helicopter and activities that were put in place for this. So let's go through the bullet points of everything. So, highly placed law enforcement source with direct knowledge of, let me pull this over here so we can read this a little bit so I can kind of read this. Okay. Highly placed law enforcement source with direct knowledge of the investigation told Ashley that Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, Thomas Cioni, may be the prime suspect in the case at this point. The same source emphasizes that Cioni is at least the prime person being looked at right now, while stressing that early prime suspect language can still shift as the investigation evolves. So, they may just be trying to clear him, right? But this is sounding a little more involved than just clearing. They did take the vehicle. Ashley's source reported that the vehicle belonging to Nancy's daughter, Annie Guthrie, has been towed, impounded, and logged into evidence, and explicitly linked that vehicle to the scrutiny of her husband, Thomas Cioni. I also found out that Tom Cioni, everybody's referring to him as the husband, so they must be married. We were unsure. We called him her partner yesterday or significant other yesterday, but all these people are now referring to him as her husband. So although she has the Guthrie name, and maybe she kept it for, just for her notoriety, it sounds like she is married to Thomas from what mainstream media is reporting. So the sources highlighted that Annie and possibly her husband were the last known people to see Nancy alive when they dropped her off at 9:30 on Saturday night before her disappearance. And now, for the first time, that is even being questioned, because I'm hearing that it may have been Thomas that dropped her off alone, folks, alone. And if he dropped her off alone, there's no telling that he didn't hurt her or injure her before he left and went back home and came back and broke into the house and staged the house at a later time to remove her out of it. Folks, I mean, there is still more to be had in this whole story. There may be 2 times he went there. In analyzing motive, the source told Ashley that abducting an 84-year-old woman with mobility issues and significant medication needs is a burden. And this is what I was talking about. I wasn't implying we need to go and, kidnap kids and provide ransom. Obviously that's crazy. That's insane. But her being a burden is really the crux of why, this whole stranger danger, abduction, ransom theory that's being spun is spin, in my opinion. Lisa B. always says Brian Enton reported low hovering helicopter for over an hour looking at the shallow grave nearby, looking for a shallow grave nearby, allegedly, and in my opinion, possibly. But he also said they hovered over the roof of the home for a while, too. So I'm wondering if they're looking at something on the roof of the home, because the roof of the home is flat. Maybe they're trying to see if there was another entry point from the top of the roof into the house. I don't know. But there was some things that they were looking at, and they were hovering for quite a while. In analyzing motives, the source told Ashley that abducting the 84-year-old woman would be a burden, and that investigators therefore looked hard at who would benefit from her if she disappears or dies. And I think this is where they started really looking and focusing on, and it makes you wonder, is Annie's life in danger? And here's why I say that, is because if I don't want to go as far as to say that Annie is involved here. We're not hearing that. We're hearing her husband, right? We're hearing her husband. And my thing would be, is this one of many things that were going to happen? Like, he got the mom out of the way, the insurance proceeds, the inheritance would then be split between the children. She'd get her inheritance, and then Tom would kill her. or Tom would divorce her and then reap his inheritance from that. I mean, there seems to be something here, and it makes me wonder who approached who about moving closer to this house. What if this was we know that this has a tone of premeditation to it. And if he really is a prime suspect and is the actual person that carried it out, what does that mean? How long has he been planning this? Because this seems planned. I think, let's take a gauge of the audience. How many of you guys feel like, even before we found out that there's a possibility of this son-in-law being a suspect, how many of you guys felt like at minimum, even no matter who this was, it had a planning mechanism to it? It was premeditated. How many of you guys felt that way? Put that down below. Raise your hand or put a 1. If you guys didn't feel that way and you didn't think this was premeditated, put a 2 in the chat. 1 premeditated, 2 not premeditated. Let's gauge our audience here. He also said there was a rescue squad in the area at the same time. Interesting. We're going to get to that. We're gonna play this interview. We're gonna start breaking it down. I know we've already been on here for quite a while and discussing it. If you guys would like to dive in a little deeper, please stick around. If you guys got things to do, I completely understand. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and maybe share this live to your family and friends and pass me around, especially if you guys are interested in this. This is a very sad case. This is a very prominent family. And not only that, but I feel like out of all the horrible people out there in the world, this couldn't have happened to but a better family, all in all. Now granted, I know we're looking at a brother-in-law as a possible suspect, but I'm just talking about the family in general, and it's really sad because money is the root of all evil, like the people that have it, even the good-hearted people that have a little bit of something that they've scripted and saved for their entire life. Somebody else wants it for nothing and is willing to take you out to get it. And it's so sad. It's like, I don't know how to, express that into words. It looks like we might be having a little bit of a hiccup with our, hold on here. Okay, we do have some. Perfect. Okay, it was kind of stuck. It wasn't giving me any answers here. So let me get back to where I was. So a lot of people believe that this was premeditated at the beginning. So if we believe it was premeditated, and you guys did bring up the house, now that we're kind of gearing, because at first it didn't seem very suspicious. It's a child. It's the only child she has in the area. Her moving closer to her mom doesn't raise any suspicion in my mind whatsoever. I just want to let you guys know, because it's normal. We've seen this before. Children do that when their parents age. But now that we're looking at this being Thomas as the prime suspect, who was the one that said they needed to move closer? What if he approached Anne and said, hey, we your mom's aging. We need to go ahead and start moving a little closer to her as she starts aging. And this was all just the ability to move closer so he could ultimately carry out what he wanted. We might learn that if it is Thomas, that he has been planning this for well over a year. That's pretty scary. But it does seem like a lot of you guys believe the same thing, that this was premeditated. Oh, thank you so much, Lincoln66. One of our prayer warriors here. Sending prayers to all that needs them this week. Sending prayers to the Guthrie family and hope Nancy is found soon. I sent you another. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. God bless you for that. I appreciate that. Loves and hugs. Loves and hugs. Let's see what else we've got here. Hey, Faye. It's nice to see you, love. I hope you're doing well. Sick world we live in. Yep. Upon seeing blood on the mom's doorsteps, good people call. That's been my problem, and I told you guys that from yesterday. And I had to, I didn't want to get all the angry, emails from my audience saying, how dare you blame a victim family member, and it's like, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I just want to talk about these very, very must-need red flag issues that we have. These are things that we bring up in every single case that we cover. uncover. We're always looking for who's the last person that saw the person. We're always looking for red flags, like what were their behaviors in and around the time of the disappearance. This is standard operating procedure for true crime. And so I didn't want to get the nasty grams from you, because sometimes I do. Sometimes you guys are supporting, but I never know what audience I've got on what case. And, are you guys going to be hyper offended by everything I say? Or are you guys like in agreement with everything I say, right? So you never kind of know. You just got to come here and do the research and put it out and see where we go. And so that was my issue. So I wanted to make sure that I was very cautious not to accuse Annie or her husband of any wrongdoing. But let's face it, it does seem awfully sus. They were the last people that saw her. And additionally, it took them a freaking hour to call freaking law enforcement. And that wouldn't be, totally crazy in our world until Brian Enton shows us that front step. And let's face it, if anybody walked to that flipping house and saw that with a missing elderly parent, you're not waiting a freaking hour to call law enforcement. You're calling right now. And you know damn well that is right. That is absolutely right. And that's where I was yesterday. I was trying to say, look, I'm not accusing anybody, but this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. And then today, we're finding out that, oh my gosh, Thomas is under investigation. He was one of the last people that saw her. He's familiar with the house. He would know where the cameras are. He would know the back door would be the best way to enter strategically. He had all this information. He knew this. Why? Because he's the son-in-law. He's been in that house for a really long time. He knows every aspect, every nook and cranny of that house. 1 hour is a long time. It's an extremely long time. We're being critical over Katie taking 33 minutes to call law enforcement on Sebastian. And we're going to be like, they had to look around and call people. It's just fine. It's normal and customary to wait a solid hour to call law enforcement. Her car was there. Her keys were there. Her phone was there. And there was blood smeared in the whole entire house and outside the house. What? I mean, this is not rocket science. Right? I wonder if Thomas has a criminal background. No, he's about as bad. Well, Annie's bad with cars. Okay, I'll tell you this. Everything I saw on Annie, she's got a freaking rap sheet that's a mile long and it's all traffic citations. Okay, she doesn't like stopping for stop signs. She likes being on her phone when she's not supposed to be on her phone and she's driving and operating a vehicle. This is going back all the way to her younger years. Okay, I don't even know how she has a license at this point. She's been pulled over so many damn times. But it's all traffic. It's no violence, no substance abuse, nothing like that. It's all traffic. And then you move over to Thomas, and his is the same way. He's got a few, not near as long of a traffic rap sheet as Annie has, but his is all traffic too. There's nothing violent in their background that I can see. There's nothing that's just wild out there, and then you have the backdrop of Cameron and Savannah, and you're looking at a really good family. And then you see the mom coming on to the Today Show and stuff like that. And it's like, you see, it just looks like, a normal family that has an extraordinary life, and that's the, what we see from the outside looking in. And then, of course, you get to Annie and her husband. In all fairness, when you compare all the siblings, they are the rougher looking set of family out of all the family, they really are the rougher looking, rode hard, put back wet type of family members in this dynamic. And that's something that we have to look at as well. I mean, it kind of sucks that we need to look at it like that, but it does. At the end of the day, we are learning that the brother-in-law might be good for this. It's not, like I said, when we were talking yesterday, who's going to ultimately be, it's going to be somebody that we are not looking at. And I said, it's probably going to be pretty shocking, but not shocking, And I felt that way because I feel in my gut this is going to come back as a family. You look at the assistants that are in and around the house, mowing the lawn and stuff like that. But typically those people, when you get somebody you like, they stay around for years. I mean, look at the Alec Murdaugh case. I mean, his housekeepers were there for decades. So, you find somebody that you like and you keep them around. So I'd have to believe that most of the staff that they have are veteran staff members, that they don't really have a whole lot of, new employment or broken contracts. And those are the only other types of things that I would think that would enrage somebody to act out in this manner. But even if they raged and acted out in this manner, I felt that they would have left her body there. And I told you that the reason why I feel that this was so close to home is because the body's missing. That was that right out the gate. How many of you guys, when we first started covering this and I realized the body was out, you guys heard me make the explanation. When this is a stranger danger and this is a burglary gone bad and they hurt you or kill you, they're dropping you right where you're at. They're not dragging the dead body with them. Okay? So this is the issue that we have here. We have this major issue where this defies logic. Because in order for us not to look at the family, we would have to believe that a third party's involved. And if we believe a third party or a stranger danger is involved, then what purpose would they have to take the body with them? The only reason why a body would go with somebody is if the body being there would identify who the subject is. So clearly the body being there would have identified that he was the ultimate culprit. So he had no choice but to remove the body from the scene. But by removing the body from the scene, what you did is you created a situation where everybody knows that this has to be somebody very close to the family. Because if it wasn't, she would still be in the house. She would just be dead. That's where we're at in all of this. So this was a crucial mistake. If he really wanted nobody to see what had happened or look at him, then his best bet, believe it or not, would have been to leave her there. But I'm pretty sure that his DNA would have been all over her. And that's probably one of the reasons why he had no choice but to take her out. Do I believe that they don't have his DNA? No, I don't. I'm not one of these people. I believe that you in this day and age, you leave evidence behind you everywhere. Okay. My dog leaves evidence behind everywhere she goes with me. I leave evidence behind everywhere I go. And I know that because I got long hair. People with long hair lose a lot of hair. Okay. So I'll be walking and I'll have a tank top on and I'll feel like a little bug is crawling up me. I'll look over and it's a piece of hair that I got to pull out of my. So you're always leaving stuff behind. Okay. Even when you're trying very hard not to leave stuff behind and you even are trained not to leave stuff behind. For example, Brian Koberger, you always leave something behind. Now, sometimes detectives find that something, sometimes they do not, but you always leave something behind. So I really, truly believe that his DNA is left in that house. I truly believe that they have processed that house appropriately. The reason why I believe that they've processed this house appropriately is because I believe that they had their forensic team in there. I believe that the FBI has been coaching them. You could tell a big difference in, now that the FBI, yesterday's press conference showed that. We didn't have the FBI present in any other press conference, and so it wasn't tight. We noticed that the press conference started late, several minutes late, and I know that that was because they were being counseled behind the scenes, because I know how this stuff works. They were they were all around the table. They're all about to go to a press conference. They're all counseling one another about the things that they want to make sure are relevant out there and what are specifically stay away from. They have a list of do not talk about these things. Okay, there's literally a list behind the scenes that says do not talk about these things. They even give them little blurbs on how to handle if they are asked that. They have blurbs that they give law enforcement to make statements. And if you can, if you have enough high profile statements, those things just naturally roll off your tongue. But with this guy, he's newer, he's learning high profile cases. It takes a certain type of handling of high profile cases, because we do hold on to every single word. We analyze everything. That's just what true crime does. So I like this because I was very concerned about this. I will be honest with you, even being a content creator. You guys know me. I want info, okay? If I can get info, I want info. But you know that at the end of the day, I'm a victim's right and activist and advocate. So at the end of the day, you know, in the back of my mind, I do worry about the case. I do worry about the victim. I do worry about these things being solved. And so I don't want, even though I want it, I don't want information that could hurt the case, right? I will run with whatever is released, you know, whether it's good or bad. If it's breaking news, I still have a job to do. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. I will run with the story, okay? I still have a job to do. But I don't want it leaked. I don't want it out there. I don't want to be breaking news that might affect the integrity of a case. But do not mince my words. I will if it's available. Okay, so the objectivity here is not make it available, right? So when I heard that the sheriff, you know, and I could see how tired he was, and he was, when you're tired and you're not firing on all cylinders, you have more leakage. Okay, and that's what I was seeing from the sheriff. You know, he was letting us know the gender of the suspect that they're looking at. You know, and us that are trained in this job, we pick up on that stuff very quickly. We pick up on those leakages very quickly. So we had already identified that this was a man that most likely acted alone. And then we couple that with the fact that, you know, this may be close to the house. See how we start building our case on this end, the public's case. So that's kind of how this all happens. And I see that once the FBI got in, they probably went in there and said, look, you got to quit talking to media, because I know that is the biggest thing for especially FBI and state police. Shut up. Stop talking to media. Right? Stop talking to media. They want it to be very, and some may say, look, I'm the representative of the people. They take that responsibility very, very well. They have to balance their voters against the situation going on, and some do a great job at that, and some do a terrible job at that, right? So he's balancing, and he may say, look, then just tell me the available information I'm allowed to tell them, right? Because I want to keep my people, because the FBI are not from this area. Okay, typically the FBI are, brought by a hub in a main city. So for example, they may have a FBI facility in Phoenix. Okay. You get it? And so now they're bringing in the FBI agents from Phoenix. These people, they're not worried about this sheriff's voters. They're not worried about, you know, the people of this community. Their job is this case and only this case. You know, and the sheriff's job is this case, the integrity of this case, but also his other constituents and his other constituents concerned about this lady and about this case, and to make sure that there's not a crazed lunatic out there snatching, you know, elderly women from their beds. You know, that's his job. And I'm sure that his community is pretty rocked to the core with this revelation, as you can imagine. This is very high profile. It couldn't have been a more high profile family in this very low profile area. You know what I'm saying? So very, very concerning. And I'm pretty sure that those conversations, in my opinion, came directly from the FBI, because you really saw a tightening of message. He wasn't playing. He knew he had gotten his instructions. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. And, you know, he would get, when he heard the question, he's like, you guys know I can't talk about that, and moved on. Next. And so you saw a different sheriff here, but you could see that the pressure was real. You could see the pressure on his face. You could see that he felt bad that he did something wrong that may have jeopardized the case. And I think that the FBI let him know just like that. And so, you know, he realized very quickly with a few conversations, he's got to tighten it up, and he's got to be very, very careful, because we do hang on every word and we analyze every word. And typically these statements are very scripted. Typically these statements coming from law enforcement So I was a little concerned. I think I even made some comments that what I wish we could find that, but I had a 4-hour live. But we had a comment where I said he needs to be careful with all these interviews. Remember that? Because we were talking about the leakage, and I even said we need to be really careful with this. Random question: Chat, does law enforcement typically wear badges on strings when they are conducting interrogations? It depends. It depends. I've seen them wear different things depending on what they're doing. Some people may have to transition from being out there in the field searching for evidence to now canvassing an area and talking to people. And if they didn't have the right equipment and all they have is a string to put around their neck to put their badge on, because that's what's required, then that's what they're going to do. So it could be, I've seen something similar to that before, but not actual string. But if it was really on string, then an officer forgot something at home and didn't have time to go back and get it and needed to have his badge brandished so he could do proper investigation. So that's what that's telling me. Okay, now I could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me. So what did mommy have? I don't know. Dee, that's a good question. What did she have? I really don't know, but she lives in a very nice house. Her house was 3,000 square foot. I can tell you that it's well maintained. You can tell by the outside of that house it's well maintained. She's got a pool and large land and has mobility issues. So we know for a fact that she has people maintaining her home for her. She's not doing the maintenance. So that tells me she has a little nest egg somewhere, okay, at minimum. So people that don't have nest eggs can't afford to keep when they get in the elderly, most people's house start falling apart because they can't afford to maintain it themselves. They can't maintain the house themselves, and they can't afford to have people maintain it for them. That's why when people start getting elderly, they start collecting a lot of stuff inside the home. The stuff, it's a real issue, but it's because as you age, you slow down. You can't do what you used to do, and you got nobody to help you. And now you're in a large house. So from everything I heard, this was well-maintained house inside and outside. And so that tells me that mommy's got to have some type of nest egg somewhere. That's what that's telling me, in all fairness. So let's go ahead and dive into this video. Let's hear what Ashley has. Again, she's got some really big bombshells here. So let's get into it, and we'll further discuss.
I'm going to bring that all to you in a moment. There's more information about Nancy's pacemaker. You probably have heard up until now that Nancy Guthrie had a pacemaker and it disconnected from her Apple devices, her Apple Watch, her Apple phone, which were left in the home at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And that is a significant time, and I will tell you why, that it is extraordinarily instructive to this investigation in terms of narrowing to a window. I'll explain why in a moment. Don't think that the pacemaker stopped working because she died. That's not it. The separation of Bluetooth between...
And I understand what they're saying here, but I'm not basing it on that. I do still believe that was her time of death. I really do. And there's a few reasons why I do believe that, but there's a lot of any of that. Just my opinion.
The things that the pacemaker was linked to, the Apple Watch and the phone. When they get out of range, you take your AirPods, you walk out, you leave an air tag behind, you get a notice, you're disconnected.
Yep.
That's more what this is about, but the timing of it is specific to narrow down the investigative window. So I'm going to get into all the details of all of these little pieces of information that I told you.
And guys, I want to tell you guys something, and this is something that just came across my brain, and I don't know where it came from. It just popped up, and it's something that's very important, and it's about the Apple Watch. Think about it. If her pacemaker is connected to the Apple Watch, everything happened inside that house. That means that Apple Watch picked up her elevated pulse and heart rate and her lowered heart rate. So, we don't know what is on that app until it disconnected, but I'm pretty sure that app might actually have some really good circumstantial data evidence on it related to her pacemaker, because If everything happened before she was removed out of the house, everything happened inside that house. That means that pacemaker was still connected to that Bluetooth while she was going through everything she was going through. So I'm interested, if they knew exactly when it was disconnected, then they were able to see everything going on at the time. They probably were, being able to realize how much anxiety. I don't even want to think about it. Let's just move on. We'll have to talk about that when we get to that part. I don't want to. Me and Ashley, she ain't my BFF. I'll tell you that. Me and her, we've had a feud since Gabby Petito. I haven't really liked her since, but I run her stuff. It is what it is. Whatever, but she's not my cup of tea. That's all. I mean, she does great work, professionally, but she's not my cup of tea professionally or personally. Just FYI.
Touch the tip of the iceberg, but I also want to get you up to speed on all the
information. Thank you for great reporting,
that
Ashley.
came out today.
Thank you for the great reporting. I'm just saying. Talk to the hand. Yeah, I know. He probably didn't have his phone on him. That's a good thing. But with a 2 a.m. marker, unless, I'm interested. I'm interested. Like, was the daughter, it's hard to think that the other daughter, Annie, was involved in this, because let's face it, in-laws are a little different than family. And I have to think she loved her mom. She was the only child that was still around her mom. I can't imagine that Annie is okay with any of this. But I don't know. I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of these people. So I'm not going to act like I do. It breaks my heart if there's any thought that Annie is involved in this, being so close to her mom, being there to call her mom. Every time that something happened to her mom, she was the one that had to go over and take care of it because, again, Cameron is in Vermont and Savannah is in New York. The only person on this side of the United States to take care of Nancy was Annie. So I don't, it's hard for me to say that Annie's involved in all of this, because it's like me thinking that my older sister could harm my mother. And there's no way in hell that I would ever imagine my older sister harming my mother. Now, would my stepbrother do it? I mean, I don't ever believe my stepbrother. My stepbrother's a big teddy bear, but a stepbrother, son-in-law, my mom's son-in-law, my brother-in-law rather, is like a big teddy bear. He's an asshole, but he's a big teddy bear. Big teddy bear asshole. I should say, stop. I'm just joking. But he's a big teddy bear, but would he be able to hurt? I mean, I would believe some a family, an in-law would be prime for hurting my mom as opposed to my sisters. Certainly, but she would know whether or not he was home at 2 a.m. She would have to cover for him. Is she covering for him? And then again, was she there on Sunday? And why did it take her an hour to call 911? Who called 911? Or did she once again send her husband, Thomas, over there to check it out? And it took him an hour to call law enforcement. We need more details about this because I don't want to ever look like a side eye. Naturally we do, but I don't ever want to look side eye at a family member, of especially this woman. And again, being the daughter that takes care of her the most. Could I see some jealousy from the spouse? Yeah. Hey, 3 flying doves. It's nice to see you, love. Yeah, I can. Hey, dreaming blue skies and sandy beaches. It's nice to see you. But we got a lot here, and I'm not hearing Ashley say anything about Annie, just Tom. So it's not surprising. We felt it was close to home. This is hitting close to home.
From a few different sources. Number one, from the sheriff himself, who held a news conference and answered questions. And then
You guys
also from
didn't see
Brian
that.
Enton, because he got some great information. And as I mentioned, he's going to be up in just a moment with me. We're going to talk about all his findings. So John Edwards is the assistant special agent in charge of the FBI in Tucson. He joined Sheriff Chris Nanos for the news conference today. Again, it's February 3rd, Tuesday. They held this update, but they didn't give a lot of information. They just said, basically, this is to answer your questions in the press. And I can tell you that we found out this is not a gated community. Okay, that was one report that came out. It's not a gated community. It's also very dark, and there are no streetlights.
I found out, this is a tidbit of information about these streetlights, folks. So on these streetlights, what we are learning is that there are none, because they don't want to interfere with the wildlife. They put families in jeopardy. Okay, there's a reason why we have lights. There's a reason why when we have a lot of people living in a certain area, we like lighted roads in lights, okay? Because at the end of the day, we always want to be, friendly with the wildlife, right? But when it comes to human life and wildlife, guess what's going to be expendable? Anybody guess? What's going to be expendable? If you have the choice between wildlife and human life, who do you think is going to be expendable? Okay? I don't agree, but we have choices to make. I'm always going to side with the choices of making a safe human being, okay, versus a safe animal, okay? That's just how we are at the top of the animal system, okay? That's who we think about, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to wildlife or human safety, human safety trumps wildlife safety. And here they've allowed wildlife safety to trump human safety. And now it's coming at potentially a very real cost. Now, it may not affect anything, the darkness, they may be able to process whatever they need to process and see whatever they need to see. But, Oven Baby is bringing up a valid point. The license plate readers, are the license plate readers able to do their job in pitch black? If not, we've got a problem, right? These are sources and resources that taxpayers paid for this community to have. And so we need them functioning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay? Not Monday through Friday, during the daytime and nighttime hours, right? That sounds foolish, because we know crime happens when? At night, when there's not so many people around. People creep, right? So it's just weird. My trailer park has streetlights. And here we have this upscale community that has no lights. To me, it's wrong. And I feel like it's an excuse not to expend taxpayer money. People are paying a crap ton of taxes in Arizona. You should not have to fight with your government for lights, okay? Them giving you this, we need to save the animals at your expense is for the birds, okay? Let me ask you, how do you think that I would receive that information if my county commissioner say, hey, we can't put a light outside your house because of all the wildlife? I would look at them and laugh. Okay? We love wildlife. We want to protect wildlife. I get that. But this is a huge community that they chose to put houses in and put people in. Okay? And when you make the decision to develop the property like that, well, you've already ran away most of the wildlife. And the other wildlife, well, guess what? Well, humans need to see them. Okay? Because people shouldn't be walking down the road and going to be attacked by a coyote or a bear. You need lights. Okay? And if it bothers the animals and the wildlife, so be it. They'll adjust just like human beings do. Okay? It's not rocket science over here, folks.
So very hard to see anything that might have been driving up and down those roads. The properties are huge, right? They're anywhere between 1 and 4 acres each. So more rural, don't think city, lit up, neighbor to neighbor sees everything. Your ring cam can see the street. It's not like that. Not everybody's ring cam can actually see the street from where they are on these big properties. The sheriff today said Nancy Guthrie's life is in jeopardy. Could be a couple reasons he said that. Number one, medications were left behind in the home. Medications that she would need within 24 hours could be fatal. And it's now 72 hours since the last time she was seen.
So we know she is in grave condition. Let's get back to some of the blood.
Going to be a serial kidnapping or whatever else has happened to Mrs. Guthrie, but there's someone out there that
this spot right here is my most out of all the droplets and stuff that we see here. It's this one right here that really I don't like this one. This one right here is not. This is right here is a very violent story to it. Okay, that's why these are very passive. Okay, you see these droplets, blobs, and stuff. These are very passive. These here, these big ones here, don't bother me. Okay, it's this one right here that bothers me because this shows violence. This shows, in my opinion, violence of some sort. It's sprayed. It's not low or drip. It's actually got some velocity to it. It's going this way. So the person is behind this, wherever this source of blood that's being sprayed is on the other side of it, and it's being forced this way. And so that's what I'm seeing here in this spot here. And this one right here has the most concern for me. It's not these spots here. It's not this big spot down here. It's this spraying that's sprayed all over. And when you blow it up, you'll see these droplets. You got droplets here. This might be two different things. I got droplets here going this way, and then I got droplets here going this way. So maybe I'll track where all the spray, directional spray is coming from, but I don't like this spot here for those reasons. It's the pattern. These aren't smears either. Okay. And the reason why I don't like this is not, I'm not saying that this is a gunshot or anything like that. I don't know what makes this, but if you ever seen any type of gunshot or spraying from gunshot, it does look similar to this, but I don't think that they would be shooting somebody outside the front door. So I don't think that's what it is. And, I expect to see more of it than just here, but this is absolutely a spraying of some type, and it's a spraying of some blood. So there's something that happened right there that had this type of cast off from it. Okay. It's that right there. I don't like it. Okay, let's get back.
That did this. So yeah, the threat is out there. He's not going to go as far as they did in Idaho early on and say there's no threat to the public, because Brian Koberger was out there for, over 6 weeks, and he's a threat to the public. But it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like there was no threat. It didn't feel like there was a big threat. So take that the way you will.
So we know that there are some stuff in here that is problematic. No, is this it? Hold on. Let me see. Is this the one? Okay, I'm going to be slowing this down just a little bit because I'm trying to still find that camera that I saw on the house.
Up ahead. So I'll tell you that in just a moment. But it was super fascinating that the sheriff wouldn't confirm blood evidence, but Brian Enton confirmed it outside, and I have confirmed it inside. There was blood inside the home. There was blood outside the home.
So blood inside the home, blood outside the home. I saw a camera.
So let me get to some of Brian Enton's amazing reporting as well before I give you a little bit more of what my law enforcement sources told me.
And it was on the side of the house.
Especially about the prime suspect and the car that was towed. That's very, very distressing. Brian... I'm
not seeing what I saw the other day. The other day, it was on this wood, and it was a line that came down here, and it was screwed onto the concrete, and then right there was almost like a camera, and it looked like a professional grade store camera, and I haven't seen that since. And then moreover, what I saw was moreover, what we heard from Ashley Banfield is these were Nest cameras, and I don't think they make a Nest camera like that. The one I saw. Hold on, let me see if I saw a Nest camera outside the house, and it didn't look like that. It looked like a ball, like it was gray. It was circular, and these are not the cameras that I saw outside the house. It was let me show you. Store camera. At least that's what, unless I was looking at, they were using some, unless they were using some stock images, this type of camera. You see this with the dome over it. But it was on the side of the camera, on the side of the house like this. But this was what I was seeing that I thought I saw on the outside of the house was the dome cameras. Something like this. That's what I thought I saw. Do you guys see that? You guys can't. Hold on. Let me move this over. That's what I thought I saw right there. But it was like, instead of it being up and looking down, it was like this on the side of the house. So I had seen something like this, but I don't know because I only saw it a split second through a news broadcast. So I don't know if that is what I was seeing. I have Ring cameras. We all have a little bit of something cameras, but I thought I saw this dome type of camera on the house on the outside somewhere screwed on. And I thought, and I've been telling everybody, I know I saw it and I've got to still find it. And I will find it. But it was one of these where somebody had a camera, but it was coming from a different angle, and they went by, and you saw this pipe going down, and then this circle thing, and it looked just like a security camera. So that's what I thought it was, and I've been trying to find it again to show you guys. I haven't been able to find it, and now they're telling us that these security cameras were ripped off and smashed. That the Ring camera, and it wasn't a Ring, it was Nest camera. The doorbell version of that Nest camera was ripped off, and they do not have it from what I'm hearing. And there were 2 additional cameras that were busted. So this is somebody that was very well informed about this property and where these cameras were. Could have been a dummy
and
camera.
Also learned about forced entry into the house. And he learned of the 2 alleged ransom notes. We're going to talk at length about that. One went to TMZ, one went to a local TV station in Tucson. We have thoughts. Lots of people have thoughts. The sheriff has some thoughts, apparently. But I'll talk to Brian about that in a moment. And I will read for you what those are. I'm also going to tell you this, that the sheriff was concerned enough that he put out a statement with a QR code.
What if he laid her body down there and she took her last breath, and when she took her last breath, it blew out that spray? I don't know. Hey, Rosemary, you're going to have to turn up the volume then. It's on your end. It's on your end. Turn me all the way up. I should be up. Have I been talking this whole time without volume? I thought I checked my volumes this morning. Pretty sure I did. Yeah, I'm up. I should be all the way up. All right. So let's keep going. What else? Another factor in this that I wanted to talk about.
Savannah put out a post today, and the Today Show, obviously,
you can tell she's just a very sweet person. You know, this is we already know her statement that she's put out, so
related, and it does speak volumes to what might have happened that sent those 2 vehicles out, the helicopter and the
so now we're getting the helicopter,
the pickup truck. Tell you that in a moment. First, let me tell you some devastating stuff. So my law enforcement source tells me that the back door of the Guthrie home was the door that was left wide open. Was it the point of entry? Was it the point of egress? Don't know that.
Listen, what if it was just staged? They said it was forced entry. How do we know it was forced entry? Was the door kicked in? There would be smeared marks from the body. That spray is from above the floor, almost as if she was at least bent over being carried. Oh, very good. So you see that spot I'm speaking of. I don't like that. Like, all the other spots don't bother me. It's that one spot right there that really, really bothers me because it shows force of something. I mean, blood was forced out of something. So that's what's got me concerned about that. It was sprayed.
But it was open, wide open, and it was in the back, not the front.
So back door wide open, back door wide open. We knew that the front door was not the one broken into because when Brian Enton went up there, we saw not one mark on it.
Brian Enton saw blood at the front door. So did a struggle happen at the front door? Was there a doorbell rung at 2 a.m.? Why was the back door open? A lot of questions there, but the back door, according to my law enforcement source, was left wide open. I told you already, 100% blood inside the house. My law enforcement source told me...
If you guys know, and you guys have been watching Bullhorn Betty for any significant amount of time, and you guys watched my first video of this case, when we learned of the homicide detectives being called in less than 24 hours, I said they had to have found blood. That's the only thing that would have rose to the level of calling the homicide investigators in. And we're seeing a little bit of that blood on the outside of the house. And what we've learned here, folks, and this is what you've got to take into consideration, is there's blood in the house. And so far, law enforcement has told us that the blood has come back to Nancy. Not a third party, not a stranger, not the assailant, not the suspect. Do they have the I don't know. We only know that the DNA that they stated that we got DNA out, they said it came back as Nancy. So that means all this blood that you're seeing, the dripping, the spraying, the slides and stuff, everything that's all over that house, that's Nancy's blood. That's a lot. There was a violent struggle inside that house. If there's that much blood on the outside of the house, there's got to be 10 times more blood on the inside of the house. And then it comes back to, we knew that there had to have been blood in that house to get this homicide investigation. We did speculate about that, but again, it's where our experience in these type of cases do help us understand what is going on and what part of the case we're in. So we knew that it had to have been blood. And then it came back to our conversation when we found out from, even though the sheriff was trying to make it seem normal, that it took them an hour to call. We all know, because we're in true crime all the time, that's not normal. We all know that that is a delayed response. And then you couple that delayed response with all this blood around the house, it doesn't make sense. No normal person would be missing their elderly parents, see that much blood all over the house, and not call law enforcement. Yeah, you might take a few moments seeing the car there, seeing the blood, and saying, maybe she had a medical event. Maybe she's at the hospital. So you call up to the hospital and say, hey, do you have so-and-so there? I'm her daughter, and her house has been left, or, doors ajar, whatever the case may be. But you walk into the house, see a damaged back door, blood strewn through the house, blood sprayed out the front door. And you're going to sit there and say, maybe we should have called, Mary Jo down the road. Maybe she decided to walk down there and have some coffee. Let's call Mary Jo down the road. Hey, Mary Jo, how you doing, doll? Have you seen my mama? No, you haven't? Oh, okay. Well, we just got a call from the church, and let me kick my feet up so we can spend an hour on the phone. I'll give you the update on what's going on with Mama. Miss Jo, we got a call from the church, and they said, Mama didn't show up, and so we came over to the house, and we see all this blood around the house, but we thought maybe she has to be down there at your house, so I figured I'd call. But since I got you on the phone, how you been, babe? You been doing all right? How's the family? Oh, well, okay. Well, it sounds so great. So great. I'm glad we got to catch up. It's been a great time over here. Wow, we've been on the phone for an hour. Honey, I got to go. I got to report Mama missing. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. Come on. What would something like that look like? Okay. Now you guys, I want you guys to really understand what an hour feels like. Okay? An hour feels like eternity. An hour feels like it's never going to end. Hell, when you're in a tizzy, 5 minutes feels like freaking eternity. And you're going to sit there, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. The hell? No! No normal person does that, folks. You go to a house, your mom's car's there, all her shit's there, and you got blood all in the inside. The first thing you're going to do is call 911. I mean, so we were already seeing, hey, Gratitude today. Oh, I love that name. Thank you for being here. So we are hearing all of this stuff, right? And we're wanting to know what in the world is going on. So when we really start processing this and playing the tape through, this defies logic again. No normal person would just sit there and twiddle their thumbs for a solid hour looking at that front door in that condition. As soon as we got, and I kept thinking, would that have caught my eye? Would that have caught my eye? Yeah, it would have. It would have. The back door being opened, blood being through the house. There had to have been visible signs of a struggle. Yeah. We've got a crime scene. We've got concealment. We've got a cover up. We probably even have signs of a cleanup inside that home. And these things are all going to lead to somebody very close. We knew that. We called that. We didn't specifically accuse anyone. But we did feel like this was close to home, and we were emphasizing the fact that the behavior of Ann and Thomas in and around the time that the mom disappeared are a little suspect. And I have to couple Ann in that because according to everything we know, Ann also dropped her off. Ann was also one of the last people that saw her. Ann was over at that house that morning. At least we think. If we find out this was all Thomas dropped her off at home when they got a call for Thomas to, maybe go out to the house and check on him. Maybe it was Thomas that took an hour before, calling in law enforcement. Maybe the sister was working and didn't have time to go over there and didn't think it was a big deal at first and then realized, wait a minute, this is a huge deal. Maybe that's the scenario. Maybe that's the unexplained, explanation. But we need to find out what it is and who was truly the last person to see her, because I'm starting to hear hints that maybe Annie wasn't even with Tom when he dropped Nancy off at the house. And that's a little scary, because what if he went in the house and, made sure he had an access point in? There's just so much to be had here. There's so much to be had here. Gratitude says, I live in Phoenix. So many neighborhoods, especially those with large acreage, have no lights. Your headlights and the house lights are pretty much all it is at night. Wow. And that's what we heard. And I think that they need to be putting street lights up. I'm sorry, but human safety trumps animal welfare. I'm sorry, it just does.
That police have now towed and impounded the vehicle belonging to Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Annie Guthrie.
Wow.
This is important because you've heard that the last point of contact with Nancy Guthrie was when she was dropped off by her daughter at 9:45-ish at night on Saturday night. So Annie Guthrie, and possibly her husband as well, Tommaso Cioni, were the last people to see her at 9:45 at night, Saturday night. Sunday morning, 11 a.m., church members reached out to the family. Hey, your mom wasn't in church. Not normal. She's always there. What's up? Family member goes over, calls family member or members, goes to the house, calls 911.
Who was the family members? I'm hearing it was Annie and her husband. But you know what? The way Ashley is saying that here, her family and emphasizing family, not saying Ann or Thomas, it almost implies that it was a different family member. So maybe I'm off base with that. I thought it was Thomas and Annie that went to the house. I don't know of any other family members that would have gotten that call other than Annie and Tom.
And the investigation begins. But
I agree
they
with
have
you.
towed Annie Guthrie's car.
I agree with you, Sam.
And
but
there
he's
is
Italian.
some connection to Annie Guthrie's car and Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law. That would be Annie's husband, Tommaso Cioni, age 50, from Tucson, Arizona, married to Annie P. Guthrie, Savannah's sister. And my law enforcement source tells me that Tommaso Cioni is the prime suspect in this case. Again, law enforcement source tells me that Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, married to Annie Guthrie.
He does not look like a nice guy. I mean, but that, again, looks can be deceiving, but we judge a lot of people from looks. This is what I'm going to tell you. Out of the entire family, Annie and her husband, Thomas, are the most sketchy looking out of all of them. Okay, they look like they are drunks or substance abuse. They look like they have some other things going on with them that maybe the other family members don't have. Alcohol problems, something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not substances. Maybe it's alcohol. Her sister looks pretty rough in person.
Savannah's sister is maybe a prime suspect in this case. At the very least, let me tamp that down, because sometimes it's the first person you're looking at, not prime as in there's no one else. Okay, so let's be really mindful of that. Families are always looked at first as well. It doesn't mean right away. Listen, Ed Smart was targeted for weeks as...
And she's bringing up a valid point. This might be a situation where they're trying to clear him, but they logged their car in as evidence. So at minimum, they think that the car was used in the commission of a crime. Okay? I mean, at minimum. That's what that information tells me.
Towed and impounded and is in evidence. That's the word that was used with me. This law enforcement source also said to me, who has the motive to kidnap an 84-year-old woman? The way it was described to me is...
And again, this is a very specific motive, okay? If it was money, if it was truly an abduction for ransom money, they would have went to somebody that was worth a hell of a lot. People being worth $40 and $50 million this year, and believe it or not, there's a lot of millionaires out there now. The billionaire is the new millionaire. Once upon a time when we were younger, you to be a millionaire, to even have $1 million in your bank account was like unheard of, right? And it's unheard of like that to have $1 billion in your bank account, because millionaires are a dime a dozen this day and age. So the millionaire aspect of it doesn't rise to the level of ransom anymore. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're going to be going after, if you're really looking for ransom money, you're going after a president's daughter. You're going after, a national person from overseas family. You're going for a developer that has family, out of gated communities that has $2 billion. It'll be easy to get a payday of a couple $1 million from them, they look like misfits. And that's what it is. They look like a bunch of misfits. And I think that's, out of everything. And I did look at them sideways when I went there, and I thought, you know what? So far, we're looking at a good family, nothing raising flags. I was trying to be very fair with my assessment, but no matter what, it really did. You guys knew yesterday, as much as I was trying to express myself without accusing anybody, how I kind of felt about the sister and the brother. There are some things that give me pause with their story.
That's a burden, right? It's a burden to kidnap an 84-year-old woman with mobility issues needing medication. That is a burden.
And again, there's much more less, like even with Summer Wells, like when Summer Wells was alleged, like her parents kept saying abducted. And I'm like, look, there were a lot of kids in that area that would be prime target for abduction than Summer Wells on the top of a mountain. You can't even drive a 4-cylinder vehicle or a 4-cylinder vehicle up. You have to have a 6 or an 8-cylinder to drive up the mountain. It was too far-fetched. And that's kind of how I feel about this.
Then this law enforcement source said, so you look at people who would have a benefit to an 84-year-old woman going away, disappearing or dying. Sometimes it's
there's only a few people that would benefit. Okay, the family is prime people that would benefit from anybody, especially a well-to-do person's life, because there's insurance, there's estates, there's real money. Okay. So you're always going to look at a person that benefits from that real money. And it would be her family, period. It would be her children. It would be her grandchildren. It would be her nieces and nephews that are in her will. Those would be the people that would benefit from her being a deceased or gone. Okay. Even some other people might benefit from her, or maybe resentful. So the resentful aspect of it would be the caretakers, right? The people that work for the domestic employees that she has that work for her, that may have been fired, laid off, replaced. You may have something like that where this is not for any other thing other than revengeful or vindictiveness, or to pay back because they felt that they were wrong by being unfairly fired. You would have something like that in a case like this as well that you could see play out. But 99.9% of the time, it comes down to real money. It comes down to greed and power in many of these cases. So in this one, it would still revert back to it most likely being a person from the family.
Somebody who has an insurance benefit from that. Sometimes it's somebody who may benefit because there's a debt.
It's a nice backyard, but she is in
helpful.
a desert.
These are just musings. They are not
a desert
evidence,
background.
okay? But they are musings from people I trust implicitly due to their longevity in the business of investigating this exact kind of thing. I told you already about the pacemaker information. The law enforcement sources have narrowed it down to the kidnapping happening at 2 a.m. based on the pacemaker stopping at 2 a.m.
I don't believe that. And we're going to get back to that. So let's get over here. This is where we need to be.
I am told again, maybe a prime suspect in this case. He's 50, from Tucson. His bio from a website that's an Italian website, an official Italian website for the Taparulan Society, Cultural Association, the Taparulan Cultural Association, a nonprofit focused on promoting contemporary artists. His bio says, I was born in San Giovanni, Valderno on June 18, 1975. Since 2006, I have lived in Tucson, Arizona. I write when I have the chance. I study lizards. I play the electric bass. I make homemade pasta. LinkedIn reports that Tommaso Cioni, Oro Valley School from 2007 until present.
That scares the living shit out of me. I will tell you that.
Says he's a primary instructor for 6th grade science and AP biology. Reverb Nation, that's a music website, says that he put out an album with a 3-man music group called Early Black. Music is apparently available, but that's all I know about Annie Guthrie's husband.
You can kind of see it all over his face. He just doesn't even sit right, He probably married this family because he thought he was going to be a star, that he was part of the Guthrie family. And when things weren't looking out for him, he's probably been lying to his wife all this time, thinking he's bigger than he really is. Sounds like he has a nonprofit, so it sounds like he's been set up probably with an NGO. Well, you know how we've done with all of them. We've cut all that stuff out. We've cut all the stuff out with related to financing for the liberal arts, the movies, all that's been cut. So maybe he was desperate for money. Maybe they were really, truly having financial problems and living outside of their means, and he did not want Annie knowing about it, and it was just easier to keep it hush-hush until he could figure something out. We don't know. We don't know. There's a lot that can be said about this guy, but it sounds like he's being looked at very, very... he's being scrutinized very hard.
Who, again, one law enforcement source, very connected, highly regarded, impeccable credentials, knowledge of this investigation, says that Tommaso Cioni, Annie P. Guthrie's husband, may be the prime suspect in this case, and Annie's vehicle has been towed, impounded, and is now in evidence.
Okay. So now you guys got the gist of it. All of these things that we believe to have been true might be. We're not going to put our name on this. We didn't come up with this information. It still seems very speculative at this moment. We haven't received any confirmation from law enforcement that Thomas is truly a suspect. This is coming from sources of Ashley Banfield. Ashley Banfield has broke a lot of stuff over her career, okay? I personally don't like her from a personal beef we had with the Gabby Petito stuff, but it's not that she's not good at times. Now, she does some pretty sleazy shit to get some of her stuff that I've seen in the past, but at the end of the day, she does break some news. So if she's hearing this, and not only that, she's been in the business for a very long time. She's been doing this for a very long time. She has a good source and a lot of sources that have worked with her over the decades that know that she is reliable, and if they tell her something, she will go to the mattress to keep them protected. That is one thing that we hear when we have sources. The one good thing journalism has is the protections to keep those sources private. Okay, it takes the government taking us to court and getting a court order for us to breach our confidentiality with our sources. It's protected. It is protected under the Constitution. So, people that understand that will not violate that. So when you get with FBI sources, law enforcement sources, they know your reputation. They know that you will go to the mattress to protect your sources. And that's the confidence they need. And that's how people are able to have people speak freely with them, because we have protections in place that protect our sources and their identity. And it's a great law. It's a great way for us to protect the information that we are getting. And so if you're wondering why these people have, say, law enforcement sources and FBI sources, is because these people have worked with these people in the past. They've known that they've went to bat to keep their sources confidential, and they have a good working, trusting relationship from one another. You want to have those types of relationships. I have several of those types of relationships where I can call somebody and ask them some questions and have them explain it to me so I can explain it to you without violating their confidentiality or you knowing who those people are. And if for any reason I say something on my show that was confidential, and the government says, "How would she know that? We're going to find out who told her that." They can't do that. And they can't do that without showing that I violated the law of and the courts do protect our sources. So it has to be really egregious for them to force you to disclose sources. It has to be really egregious. Courts protect those things. So I just thought I'd let you know why is it, but she's with News Nation, and the reasons why I trust her statements related to this, not just one source, is because News Nation requires their people to either have multiple sources to corroborate the information, which means more than two, or they probably know who the person is, and the person has spoken to their boss and told their boss that this is what it is, and they trust that because they know who this person is, and this person wouldn't lie to them. So that's, they do have that, but I know not just these talking heads, but I know the processes behind the scenes. So in order for them to allow her to make these statements, she would have had to have those things confirmed. So you see how that works. And so I do trust that the information coming out is going to be more legit than not. Is it going to be accurate? I don't know. I guess only time will tell. But it coming from Ashley Banfield and the News Nation name, yeah, I'd have to say that they're looking at this guy as the primary suspect. And it makes sense. It fits our profile. It fits our profile of being a man. It fits our profile of being alone. It fits our profile of it being close to home. It fits our profile. He's unconnected to the family except by marriage. So this is not his mom, So he's looking at her like a checkbook. Did she help them buy their house? You know, that's going to be our next questions. We're going to be going down a lot of financial questions. Who's been propping up Annie and her husband's lifestyle? Has it been, you know, have they been taking care of themselves, or has the family been taking care of them? I think now's a good opportunity to start answering those questions. And he is a large man. Yeah, he has the ability of hurting her. He has the ability. I mean, look at him. He is a Brian Koberger, but even thicker than Brian Koberger. He has bigger arms, but he's not muscular, but he's athletically built, right? He's got bushy eyebrows. Oh, good gracious. This is freaky. This is freaky. But this is going to be a situation where if Annie is not involved, this is going to be so heartbreaking for their entire family, but for Annie too, because if she, you know, again, she was the one that spent the majority of her time with her mom. If she's not involved in this and had no hand in this and come to find out it was her husband, I can't imagine how heartbroken she must be and must feel. I'd have to assume at this point that her mom was like her best friend, you know? And that's what is so incredibly difficult with this story, is that this pain seems like it's going to get worse for them. It's going to get worse for them. So it is my belief that Miss Nancy is dead. Okay, I believe that somebody close to her killed her, and I believe that they, after killing her, they decided to conceal the crime. And because they removed the body from the house, that was my very first indicator that this was not a stranger danger. And I made that very abundantly clear from the onset of this case. That's why I thought it was very close to home, including, you know, thinking it was a family member, to the point that I looked into this family. And because I didn't find anything that I gave them a little bit of grace and figured if it was family, it would start coming out and leaking out. And now it's starting to come out and leak out. So that's kind of where we are, folks, with this entire case. It's very, very sad, the situation that we truly are in with the Nancy Guthrie case. And to think that this dark man behind this scary face, this worried lady's face here, very well might be her brother-in-law, or her son-in-law rather. And that is absolutely horrible. Did she know what was happening and who was doing what to her? I pray to God that they're just trying to clear, Annie and Thomas, that this is just some type of misunderstanding. But we all knew going into this, the statistics is going to tell us that it was close to her. Off the bat, statistics tell us it's going to be somebody close to her. And the fact that these details defy logic and don't make sense, it does kind of indicate that this would be somebody very close to her. So a son-in-law, that's pretty damn close. That would fit who we're kind of looking for in this situation. Anyways, guys, in a couple hours, we're going to have my live from TikTok dropping. So I would say that that's going to be dropping at about 1:30 today. And then we'll be back tonight to kind of give us an overall closeout of any other new information that is going on in this case. So just to give you guys, if you're just coming in, let's go ahead and give you guys a little background information on the Nancy Guthrie case and what is new for us. We learned through Ashley Banfield that the damaged door is in the back of the house. The forced entry is from the back of the back door leading into the house. There is blood that was observed, as we saw from News Nation, blood at the front door. And then we also have the fact that Annie and her husband, Tom, had dinner with her the night before, dropped her off at the home before she went missing. The family received a call. It took them an hour to even call law enforcement after receiving the call. Very unusual, very concerning. And we want to know why. And then we find out that Thomas, the son-in-law to Nancy, is being treated as a suspect in this matter. And they have impounded his and Annie's vehicle. And Annie's vehicle is being processed as evidence and has been logged in as evidence. So we've got ourselves a problem. We've got ourselves a crime scene. We have ourselves a crime. The question is Nancy dead or alive? And if this is truly her husband, or excuse me, her son-in-law, then she's most likely dead. She was most likely deceased before she left that house. And that has been my opinion of this case from the onset. And only time will tell whether we're accurate or inaccurate. But at the end of the day, we know for a fact something terrible happened to this beautiful woman. Something terrible happened to this beautiful woman by somebody she most likely knew. And something happened to this woman that most likely lost her life. And then we've got to look at who would have motive for her being gone and deceased. And it seems like the only people that we can derive that would ever have motive in a situation like this would be a family member of some sort. And now we're looking at a son-in-law. So that's kind of where we are right now. Will that change? Will there be an arrest coming? We don't know. We're going to keep you guys abreast. We're going to let you guys know what's going on in this case. We're going to take you through all the twists and turns of this case. So stay right here to the Bullhorn Betty channel. If you haven't signed up or are subscribed to this channel, please do. We will, as we start growing and getting more people involved, once trolls start coming in here, we're going to be changing our metrics for our conversations. So that will go up to a day. It could go up to 5 days, depending on how well. So far we're doing all right. So I'm not adjusting it from the 10-minute mark, but there's no guarantees that you will be able to conversate in our chat tomorrow if you don't sign up today. So just keep that in the forefront. Don't forget to pass me around. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And I hope you guys visit me on other social media platforms as well. So you guys have a great day. We'll see you later this evening when we roll out with our breaking news on this story this afternoon. But until then, we're going to be rolling out a lot of videos for you of any information that is changing throughout the day. So please stay tuned for those important videos. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.